Hi, welcome to Wedding Season. We are back. I'm happy to be back. Today I am recording from our farm cottage again. I think we did so even at our last video. It gives me great pleasure, I'll say this again, to be here. It brings back memories. This is where it all started with us. When we first bought the farm, I stayed here for 3 years, 4 years before we started our short-term rentals. So when we started, our cottage was the first one to be listed. So it warms my heart. Okay, that's the sound of the farm. One of the farm sounds. We have 5 dogs here around the property. Anyhow, without any further ado, we are continuing with our text from the Book of Ezekiel. I'm excited about today's word. We are continuing about the Book of Ezekiel, chapter 37. For those who might be joining us for the first time, what we are doing, we are looking at different phrases found in different verses, and then we try to unpack them, see how they apply to our lives, and place a demand on them. If there's something to claim, a promise to claim, we are trying to do that. So I'm also welcoming you to share your thoughts. So far, we've done 3 of these phases, all of which were found in verse 1. The first one was that he brought me out. That was our first phrase that we dealt with, where the prophet Isaiah was saying that the hand of the Lord was upon him, and he brought him up by his spirit and placed him and set him down in the middle of the valley. So the first phrase or expression that we dealt with in that verse was he brought me out. So understanding about that, just briefly, I won't go too much into the recap, was that God would always bring us out of situations that are no longer best serving his purposes for our lives. They don't necessarily have to be negative or bad situations. If there's something that he wants us to do, for our next level or the next assignment, and if there's something where we are at that is holding us back, he'll always bring us out to be better positioned, better placed to serve the greater purposes better. So that's what the phrase basically meant to us. And then the second one was that the hand of the Lord was upon me. That one was bringing a lot of encouragement to me, that who dare stands against me when the outstretched arm of the Lord, when the right hand of the Lord is upon us, who can stand? What circumstance can withstand God's resistance or God's hand? So we're in good place. We're in a good place when we have God's hand upon our lives. We're protected. We're provided for. We are guided. We have His presence around us. So yeah, that's what's the phrase. That's how the phrase was explained basically. And then the third one, he set me down. That was also an interesting one for me, that there was something about positioning there. God did not just take, or the Spirit of the Lord did not just take the prophets to the valley of dry bones. He strategically positioned him to address the situation. So wherever we are placed, whether in a work situation, in our families, in our churches, communities, there's a strategic positioning that God sets us about, or that God sets about us to address those situations. We are strategically positioned to address the situations at hand. So today's phrase is found in verse 2, but I think I need to read verse 2 in its entirety, and then we focus on the phrase. So verse 2 says that he led me all around them, and there were great many of them on the surface of the valley, and they were very dry. So he led me all around them, dry bones meaning, and there were great many of them upon the surface of the valley, and they were very dry. So here, the Lord seemingly wants the prophet to have a full appreciation of what these dry bones or what this valley entails. He spares no, he spares no details. He spares the prophet no details. The prophet has got to see the dry bones or the situation from every angle. The prophet has got to see the depth, the gravity, the depth, the height, the gravity, and the severity, let me put it that way, of the situation, because in no time he'll be speaking to the situation, and for him to speak correctly, he's got to see correctly. I think I might still have to learn more about this relationship between what we see and what we say. So most of the time we'd rather not see much. I'm that kind of a person. I have to be very prayed up, very led by the Spirit for me to be that bold. Most of the time, I'd rather keep it mild, be moderate about it. But then here, God says, I want you to see it. I want you to see it for it. I want you to look at your financial situation for what it is. The gory, the part, the discomfortable part, the scary part. I want you to have a good look at them. Good look at them. I want you to look at your marriage, and I want you to look at the situation with your children, what they are. Don't be scared by them, because you are going to have to address it. You cannot address something that overwhelms you. You have to confront it for you to overwhelm it. And of course, let's overwhelm them if we have to. For you we have to confront our situations for us to overcome them. We might just as well overwhelm them in the process. Why not? So that's what we see God doing to the prophet. That go there. You're there. I've already strategically positioned you. Have a good look. Know exactly what you're dealing with. If we do not know what we are dealing with, we cannot manage it well. So God says, know exactly what you're doing. Know exactly what you're dealing with. And I'm also reminded of the prophet Jeremiah, where the Lord is saying, what do you see? On those two occasions, the prophet obviously responded, told God what he saw or what he was seeing, and then God said, you saw correctly. Because now whatever that God wanted him to see is what was going to unfold. So it was very critical for the prophet to see correctly. So even in our situations, it's very critical that we see what God sees. God does not see the situations as the end in themselves. That marriage situation, that work situation, that parent-child situation, the financial situation, the church situation, whatever situation we're finding ourselves in, God sees the end in those. He does not see those situations as the end in themselves, but there is a desired end. There is a better end that He has planned, and that's what He wants us to see. Because once we start speaking, bringing that end to effect. We don't speak what we see in terms of the dry bones themselves, but we speak because there's an army that is going to come out of those dry bones. So it reminds me also of what the Lord was saying when He was hanging on the cross, that for the joy that was set before Him, He did not see the cross in its end, but then there was something beyond the cross that He saw. And that's how we should be looking at situations as children of God. That those things that we speak them, that they come. So whatever that is beyond the situation that we want to see, the positive that you want to see, is what we are going to speak. We're not going to speak or say the situation for what it is, but we are going to speak those things that we want to see the situation turning into. I hope that is clear. I hope that is clear. I hope that is clear. Anyhow, I think basically that's what this word means to me, that we should not be afraid of the situations, because we are looking beyond the situations. And for us to speak those things that need to take place, we need to know the situation exactly what it is. If we allow ourselves to just see the surface of the situation, we are going to speak to the surface of the situation, and the whole situation, the entirety of the situation will still remain. So we want to see the situation for what it is and address it for what it is. So I'm hoping that this word makes sense. I know that it's brief, but I'm hoping that it will make sense. And like I'm saying, please share your thoughts as well as to what this phrase means to you. But for me, it was just to say that our dry bones need not intimidate us. Our dry bones, when we approach them, we approach with the God, the Alpha and the Omega, who knows the end from the beginning and everything in between. He knows how the story ends. So whatever the financial situation, whatever example, normally we talk about financial situations, our marital, our health, maybe our children, our workplaces, whatever those situations may be, let us look beyond what is presented. Let us see an army rising up out of the dry bones. Hallelujah. I hope this blesses you. And you're welcome to please comment and like. You're still a very young, developing channel. Really, really much appreciate your support. Thank you. Until we see you next time with the next phrase of the text in Ezekiel 37. God bless you, and we love you. Thank you. Bye.